We are back. Admittedly, we're missing one person at the moment, but we are going to be fixing that in a second. But let's get down to business, okay? DFM versus Sengoku, both undefeated right now, and a lot of history. But who do you have as your favorite coming into this first one?
Oh, you're making me pick sides already, man.
Yeah,
Look,
we're doing it from the start.
I've kind of got to go for Sengoku here. Honestly, I was a Hawks fan last split. I'm like, you look at Sengoku lineup and it's good. Like their entire lineup is really good, and I'm really hopeful for them coming in here because they struggled last split. There's no easy way to put that one, unfortunately. But this lineup, I love it. I'm really hopeful this run that they can actually do a really decent shot in this split.
Okay, so I am actually still here. I've just been taken to the void. We'll see how all of that works, as I'm suffering from a syndrome known as Berlin Internet. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how this game ends up working out. I'm back! Here we go. I'm actually now Kaisai Nymera or something like that. I am now the son of the void. I've survived my travels there. And we'll see if Sengoku can survive DFM, because last season, this was probably not a matchup which was as exciting. It has been historically, but still, DFM coming into their first game, I think they were a rung higher than I thought they would be. So I'm actually expecting a very interesting game out of both of these teams because they both come off of Game 1 wins.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of interest around DFM was mid lane. Obviously, new mid laners for both teams. Who do you kind of have as your favorite? Is there any inclination that you've gained from the first game that we've seen so far?
So I think that both of these mid laners are really, really cool. I love Jet and Yahrong. I think they had both really good level 1s. I think I'm going to favor DFM just because if you're playing Tryndamere and you're playing around less teleport solo laners, laning phase becomes so much more impactful. And Ebby is the best laning top laner in the LJL. That's always going to be a factor that DFM have. So for me, I'm favoring them right now. But of course, Sengoku came out with a lot of good performances on their own side.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of the map, because top lane has been a big focus today, but bot lane for these two teams is where a lot of the action can go down. So with you Midnight now, where do you kind of see that going, like in whose favor?
Oh, look, this is a completely biased opinion. I'm not even going to try and to spin it here. Honey for Sengoku, I think he's a phenomenal hyper carry player. Like we saw him last split, had some of the highest, I think the highest DPM numbers. Full stop. Like there was, I think
to clarify on that, it's 722 DPM for last season. That is the highest DPM of any player from a Worlds qualifying region. Carry on.
Yeah, so you've got someone like that who you give him a hyper carry, which surprise, surprise, right now your Jinx, your Aphelios, something that we know Honey can pull off super, super well. In the bottom lane, you give him a strong mid laner of Jet because Jet's come in, he's looked very, very good. And then I think the other part that I'm looking for bot lane, ironically, is actually the jungle of Sengoku. Once is insane. So I just want Once and Honey to basically form an army of two and just start dismantling DFM.
Let's just put the emphasis on once being insane in like the psychological sense of it. This guy goes off the handle. Now it's not always good. This player has very much dug his team into deficits. He loves to play aggressively, loves to go for early invades, loves stuff like Graves and Talia. He likes getting up into the enemy jungler's face. Question is he now in an environment where he's supported to do that more than the old Burning Core roster, which we've obviously said did not do so well in that regard?
Well, it's a lot of questions. I think also like champion pool as well is something that I kind of want to bring into it. Obviously, we mentioned a lot of hyper carries going well. Zeri as well. It's something we can't forget about. If it is left open, then it is going to be a bit of a banger. And to be honest, I'm very excited. Like as we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, like last season, it would have been, well, come on, it's DFM. They're just popping off.
True.
But as you said, like a couple years ago, this was a big match of the Titans, and I know that a lot of the analysts are like showing their sides of this story. But when it comes
story
down
time.
Let's have some story time actually.
Because we started this LJL broadcast back in 2020, and in that season, Sengoku tried to put together a roster that could beat DFM. They brought in Blank, they brought in Pyrion, two ex-SKT players to their mid jungle, and they nearly did it. They won the Juggernaut match of spring, they lost in the finals. In summer, they got to the Juggernaut and they just bombed out of playoffs. They had a bit of a weaker streak since then. We knew what happened last split, but historically, Sengoku have tried to reach towards the top of the tree at points. This is another attempt to try and do that.
Yeah, shout out Melvin as well. Obviously, a big Sengoku fan. Had to be done.
Pour it
And
out for Sengoku.
we've talked about bot. We've talked about mid. We've kind of talked about top as well. I feel like just because of how the day has gone, we have to talk about it once more. Are there any picks that you're really expecting to come from these two top laners?
Trinidad. Seems like the pick of the day. Seems like it warps everything. If you're picking up the Tryndamere, going for the Hull Breaker first, your pressure in side lanes is very hard to deal with. That's the first pick on the mind. Then you've got stuff like Gnar and Camille left up. So, I mean, Gnar, the LJL special. We'll see if that crops up.
I just hope there's no Gnar, man.
It's going to happen.
There's so many good options. There are so many good options. You do not need to run to Gnar every time something... Like, you've got Camille. Don't give me that look like that. Like, you know, talking about Camille's there. Even Gragas Scion. There are so many top lane options right now. I would be heartbroken to see. Like, yes, I know the Gnar's the LJL signature, but please, Paz, don't run to the Gnar.
Well, we'll find out if they do run back to their comfort or if they do pick up some new stuff in the next pick and ban. So I'll let you guys take it away for our final game of the day.
Well, let's dive into things here. So far, well, the Tryndamere is the first thing that does not make it through, so we won't be seeing any of those shenanigans so far. But
hey, Midnight.
Don't
you know now that the two worst matchups for Gnar are gone. Do you think it's good for a first pick with Tryndamere and Nexon off the table?
I swear, if we see a first pick, if I swear to God, if Sengoku lock in Gnar over like Zeri, who has yet to be banned as the first pick, I'm gonna lose it. Like, there's not, you can't do that. Like,
yes, yeah, so Zeri has 100% presence. I'm hoping it's gonna get banned because that champion is very strong.
They have to ban it here, surely.
Especially giving it to Honey as well, who has always been an excellent hypercarry player in the playmaker stuff. Now, his Jinx and Aphelios are typically what you go towards. Maybe you think, actually, we'd rather pick up something like the Aphelios or the Thresh for ourselves. They're banning away the Xin Zhao instead. I know that you were obviously talking a lot about singing a lot of Wanz's praises, playing aggressively, but, I mean, this is a very, very easy pickup for the side of Sengoku. You can just start molding your composition around the Zeri. Question is, are you going to give this to Honey? Are you going to start flexing it around? Looks like DFM have a plan for it. Very quick lock-ins of the Karma and the Poppy. Lane control and bot lane if you want to put it alongside something like an Ezreal or something like a Senna on 12.2, very strong too. And then you have the Poppy to stop her dashing around, get right on top of them.
Yeah, I love this from DFM. They said, all right, cool, take her. We've got plans for you. But there's a few other problems they might have to deal with. Once Lee Sin is, well, he's an aggressive player. It could go well, it could go badly. We'll have to see that one. And I presume that's going to be Paz's Graves in the top side too.
Yes,
so...
and the reason for that is just quickly jumping in here, because if you're going to lock in something like the Poppy top lane, the Graves can go Hull Breaker first and destroy all of your structures very, very quickly. Giving that amount of gold to a Graves, quite a dangerous prospect. So now DFM have the option of putting that Poppy towards the jungle, not towards the top lane. Of course, we saw that Poppy top from Axis, Yellow Yoshi, who's a very famous Poppy streamer, used to be an OTP. Question is, for me, where are the priorities lying now for DFM? You see the cards on the table, quite obvious what Sengoku are going towards. How do you want to respond to it? You're just going to go bull rush into it?
Bull rushing's the dangerous option, though, because if it fails, there's going to be a lot of dead corpses of your buddies. So be a little careful on that one. I'm very surprised, though, to see Udapon's answer to Zeri is Varus. You know, the Jinx is still up.
Still shot-based champion into a very high move speed Zeri. I'm cautious of that too. It's good level 1 to level 6 pressure, right? You get the ability to really poke down, but I feel like Senna is the more meta answer. This feels like it's comfort over actual best pick.
I mean, it could work out, right? If you can get that pressure early onto the Zeri, brilliant. But my concern is just that's not going to happen. So, you know, eyes on Udapon for pulling that one off. I'm hopeful. And if that does become a support Karma, that is a lot of poke in the bottom side of the map to start.
It could be that. Also could be the Karma top, roaming away with the Smite Karma top. We'll see if DFM have prepared for that. Last time, of course, they went towards the Tryndamere top lane. This would be the polar opposite of it, where Tryndamere is only in the lane and doesn't want to leave it for anything, no matter if there's a team fight or not. And this is, I never want to be in lane. You can see that actually Ebby's switched back to the teleport. We'll keep an eye out on those summoners, see if DFM want to do anything particularly special with it. And now they have to decide, do you have a suitable blind pick mid? With the 4 mid bans in the last stage, you could go towards something like a Victor. Victor's not bad here, particularly with everything else off the table. It's just quite high value on its lonesome. Or do you want to leave something up to allow you to counter pick for Yaharon? They are going to go towards that Victor. There you go.
I like the Victor here. Like, the other mid lane I was thinking is maybe you could pull out an Orianna, but I like the Victor here. Adds a bit more poke as well.
I think that on the other side, I think Sengoku should start looking towards an Orianna. I think that's a good pick for them. Orianna is somewhat of a lane counter to Victor. You slightly outrange him. There's only a point around about, I don't know, 10 minutes in when you've got your Death Ray maxed out and you can dump the Kelstorm on top of the Orianna that you can kind of take control of that matchup. Sengoku choosing to go towards more early agency though, lock in that Rise, still fine into the Victor matchup, but gets more active early.
Yeah. Both of these supports kind of terrify me. Because imagine the Zeri speed with a Lulu buffing her. Like, that's insane. Oh, God.
Oh, it's gotten through the entire pick and ban phase. The cat on I mean, we've if Twitch Yumi is Tom and Jerry, this is Tom and Zeri. Welcome to the speediest lane that ever was out here. And now, good luck hitting those skill shots again. You've picked a very skill shot reliant bot lane. I think that is going to bite DFM a little.
Yeah, it's going to be particularly difficult. There it is! Okay, we were talking about this off air. How do you lock down a Zeri? Camille is a point and click, you're not allowed to leave this small area, but now, all her mobility means nothing.
And it's something actually, I mean, credit to him. It was Mass Swan saying this after the Axis V3 game, saying, if you're going to let the Zeri through, you have to play Camille. You just got to do it. It's the point and click. It's shut down. It's the ability to stop the Zeri just running circles around you. Taking the Ignite as well. It helps in that lane matchup. But you look at this, this Zeri with the Yumi on top of them. Ebby is going to be instrumental in shutting them down. This is going to have to be a big game from Ebby. We know him to be a big game player. He's always pulled out these top draw performances. Camille hasn't been his pick of choice historically, but he has all of the agency to shut down the carries this game.
And that's kind of the big thing that for these mid-game and even the late-game fights we have to be watching at. Where is he positioned? And obviously, if you're facing that, how do you protect your Zeri from the Camille? Like, you've got options. Cat?
Cat.
Oh, that brings me pain to say. I was going to say, you could just kick her, right? You've got Elise in. So it can
Please
be
do not kick your cats. That's a horrible thing to do.
No, I meant kick the Camille away from Honey. Is what I meant.
Yes.
Do not kick your cat. This is your public service announcement.
What I will say is that this might be a very controversial take, but cats don't have eyebrows. Yumi clearly has eyebrows, therefore she's not a cat. In fact, her eyebrows look more like like the very caricatured French mustaches with like they're all spindly and stuff.
It does.
They're basically just that stuck up above her heads. I'm trying to find reasons that I can justifiably say that Yumi is not something that I should care about. Because I am actually a cat person. Do not let this fool you to thinking that I like Yumi. And DFM looking to see that they really don't like her. They're not honey people either. So they walk in and they secure some bot lane presence with an early shove in. They get a mana flow ban stack for Hop, but I'm sure he's very happy about that. Wait, he doesn't have a mana flow ban. They don't even secure that.
Is they going for? I believe it's absolute focus. Not.
There's gonna be so. How does this? No, it's you got the Nimbus Cloak first. Nimbus Cloak on the top row, then you got Absolute Focus, and then Scorch after. That's a very early pressure. DFM really wanting to hang around as a early death ball, but what they've done is given up a lot of vision at this point. Once we know he's a very aggressive jungler, and he's trying now. He has all of that information to abuse the early clear.
Yeah, and DFM actually saying, look, we committed to the bottom half of the map. Screw it, we're going to properly commit to here. Steel will get He'll pull his namesake off. That sweep is
going to time out. That's going to time out. They're not in range to kill this ward.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, just in time. Just in time.
I feel like Sengoku know they're on the bottom side of the map, just a hunch. So
Just a little bit, a little bit.
they're not going to be too surprised that that's happening down there, but it also means that they won't know if Steel's doing the, taking everything on the bottom half of the map, or whether it's just grab one and then quickly get the hell out of there. So DFM's what bot lane? Damn! Forcing out an early cleanse from Honey.
Okay, this is a very LPL thing to do. You trade your summoners very early for HP advantages. You can see Honey isn't chancing anything, cleanses off the Ignite to not take the full value of that. NTP uses the heal as well. So now it's a 1 to 2 summoner trade for DFM's favor. And now the question is, can they use that to leverage any sort of fight? DFM, Steel rather, is on the bot side of the map, has of course stolen away that red buff. It's a bit of vertical jungling. The question is, can they actually get into any sort of dive? Cleanse is gone now, potential of a flash wall stun.
Yeah, but diving with like a level 2 or 3 Poppy is so risky, just because you're tanky, sure, but you're what, 2 turret shots, maybe 3 if the turret's being generous to you? I'm not sure that's going to be quick enough to nuke Honey with, the exhaust available by NT, so I like the pressure it's putting on, but unless Honey steps up, I don't see this netting much for DFM personally.
Yeah, they're trying to take some harder trades. They've managed to keep, of course, the ultimate from
God.
Karma. They're going for it, no
my
cleanse.
Lord. Going in for that one there, they will deny the jump, but that's the flash burn from Steel, and you don't have the early game damage output, and unfortunately, couldn't get much. At least you got Jet's TP, I guess.
Yeah, you get Jet's TP, you get all of the pots from Honey and NT as well. I do think this is still a net positive trade for DFM. You get rid of that Flash and the Poppy. That's a big playmaking tool down, but the question is, after all of that's happened in the first 3 levels, can Honey and NT safely lane now? I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Well, not if Steel keeps us hanging around the bottom side of the map here, basically staking his claim. But that means that you're going to have to basically pull off another dive, right? Because I don't see Honey and NT going beyond where they are right now. They're going to be hanging out at the Tri-Brush at furthest. So, keep getting the poke.
So I don't know whether you actually need to pull off a successful dive. And we know that it's harder to dive in the current meta anyway now compared to last season, where you could teleport in, get big teleport dives. But poke under tower is quite powerful in its own right. We can already see that's almost a full wave lost from Honey. And Youthspon on Harp, they can start rolling with this advantage and taking harder and harder trades, particularly after that first reset, which will eventually come in. They'll have an item advantage to bring to bear at that point too.
Well, it's looking good. Harp doing a lot of trading, but that's the what you need out of Karma, right? You're getting aggro support, is what you want to see, and this bottom side is going to, I think, continue to take the obsession as the camera's like, hey, look, your top laners exist, but remember that Ebby's picked this champion, I feel like, just so you can look at Honey late game and say, no, you're not allowed to have fun.
And also you look at the early game, Ebby's the one that's not really having that much fun. Was zoned off of a wave or 2 in his own right. Of course, the camera was panned down towards that bot lane, rightfully so. It's the new champion. It's very important if they succeed or they find themselves a little bit more anemic in terms of the resources that they have. Ebby, as much as he is the top lane carry god of the LJL, responsible for so many of this region's successes, is against Paz, who hasn't had the best season last year. Was at Worlds the year before that, and has the resources now to impact this game and put his own name into the equation in the top lane LJL pool.
But I want to see stuff happening top lane, but we know it's not going to right now because Harp is still down here, and even Steel is starting up the dragon nice and early. So DFM making it very, very clear that the bottom half of the map is theirs to do whatever the hell they damn well feel like it. And it's panned out relatively well for the team, right? You've got the TP burnt. Yarong's in a got to be pretty happy with that. He's got a 14 CS lead, and now he's like, okay, cool, I can walk back into lane. I'm going to be in a great position. Should have his lost chapter.
This is dangerous here for DFM now. I mean, still in very low HP. I wonder if...
oh, no.
He's still there. Dragon does end up going down. And I was just a little worried though, because of course Lee Sin has that execute damage on his Q. Would have been a little dangerous, of course, for him, because the steadfast presence does deny him so much of his ability to play out the game. NT doing the typical Yuumi thing and abandoning their bot laner for greener pastures in the name of their jungler this time.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like that though, because Honey's just freezing the wave down bot side. You know that the DFM bot lane is just, they're taking the dragon, they're going back home, they're spending their gold. So if once runs into trouble, you've got some backup. I'm not going to say a proper backup because, like, a Nautilus or a Leona is
Yes.
backup. Yumi's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hitch a ride and I might help. I don't know. I'll see how I'm feeling when stuff goes down.
Yeah, just drop me off at the next lane. I've got my stops here. It's the jungler public transport service for ye oldie cat in the bot lane. But let's just take a step back again, and kind of see how this game is going out in its totality, because we have slight top lane advantage side of Graves. Of course, just going to keep pushing and trying to make sure that Camille isn't allowed to roam anywhere else. I'm really interested in how this mid lane is going to play out at this point, though, because as much as Zeri is a very powerful champion, you don't get to die. This is kind of a similar thing to like the Lucian matchup in the mid lane that we saw from the Victor. What you'll see a Victor do when someone tries to dive into the backline, start skirmishing around, drops everything on them, gets them to like a 3rd HP, and they can't fight after that point. Victor's pretty good at dealing with these skirmishing AD carry marksman like champions. As much as you have that Yuumi, I'm looking to see if Yaharon can use his early game presence, which I say early game presence, but the presence which we will have, a 1-2 items to stop this Zeri from running rampant like we saw earlier in the day.
Yeah, and you paired that up with again the.
Oh, that hits.
That was really nice. Honey taking out really bloody low there. Won't go down to the ignite, but what a push. And, well, DFM did hit level 6, so that's kind of your penalty for not realizing they were that close.
And what I really like after that, too, is that Harp saves the ignite until after the cleanse had already been used. You can't get rid of that summon. So, of course, we said about that level 1, trying to use that cleanse to make sure you're not taking the full damage from the ignite. Honey and NT, they're falling behind in CS now. That has been the cost of DFM's pressure down towards them, all the attention which they've garnered. Steel getting some attention himself on the top side between the two Sengoku solo laners, but he's all right. He's a pop. He just waddles his way out with the phase rush.
Yeah, quite happy with that. And also, I love watching Poppy with water walking, because she just looks so ridiculous. But I kind of love it. It's like ridiculous looking yordle. I'm all for it. TP from Paz going topside, which means I think, Once has to abandon the idea of taking Rift Heralds.
Well, I do. I mean, I do think that when you've got the Paz Graves continually pushing in, it's very hard to go towards that anyway. We kind of talked about Renekton in the previous game being, look, he's probably going to win you a Herald fight. Graves is in a similar vein, a similar train of thought. Paz is going to track that Herald once more, get some vision down. Again, this is a veteran player. He's not the first time on this rodeo. Spots out similar veteran status of Steel around there. And we are left with a very even game. It's not like these teams haven't made plays. It's just not led to a game-breaking advantage yet.
Yeah, it feels very similar, Namir, to the first game of the day we've had. Our first, the 3rd game of the day. Where
yes.
It was pretty chill. The junglers are both looking for something, but they're not willing to commit everything to it. We're seeing a lot more fighting down on the bottom side, but it's just that. It's posturing. It's a little bit of skirmishing, but nothing much has come from it other than DFM, securing themselves the early dragon because of the pressure.
Yeah, so DFM are starting to find themselves kind of like the extra side benefits, the collateral of this tug of war between both teams, trying to push and pull, see if they can find any openings. Last game that DFM played, their first game, they were... How do I say this? They were not as clean maybe as we would like to see from them, but then again, they are a new squad coming together. They had to kind of brawl it out in the mid and late game. It did come down to team fighting. I'm wondering if this is going to happen again. One's going to get grounded, but nothing going to come from that. It's a Herald and out from DFM. Very quick and easy. They have themselves an objective to play with.
Yeah. And now you've got to ask that question for DFM. You've committed your resources. You were successful in getting yourselves that Herald. Where are you dropping it? Because my gut instinct is always drop the first Rift Herald mid, get some turret plays from your mid laner, and it also weakens the turret so that you can get that early tier 1 in the mid and just open up the map a little bit. Is that an option for DFM here, or is a side lane might be a little bit better?
Normally you want to, I mean, I think that if you can ever get a good opening into that mid lane, very valuable objective, you're completely right. Normally I like to see second Herald do that because teams are normally in position to defend the first one a little more. In terms of the plates, I often see it more bot lane, trying to give it to those AD carries. Something like a Varus, if they do get ahead of the curve, can be quite difficult. I think in this game, I'd love to give that goal to the victor either way though, so it does come back to that mid lane. I think Yaharong has a lot of responsibility this game for keeping these shorter range champions from Sengoku at bay. They are a very low range comp. Victor loves playing into them, wants gonna go for a kick and doesn't manage to land it to the flash away.
Yeah, really good job from Harp, not even taking the chance to be like, you might kick me, you might mess it up. I'm like, doesn't even take that consideration. Immediate flash, I really love that
Flash.
coming out.
I like that. It's respect. Don't let it happen. You're gonna die otherwise. No point in giving up freebies, especially giving more gold over to that bot lane. If you, well, considering most of the early game has been DFM trying to deny that, works against their game plan were that to happen. So early dragons split one apiece. Normally we talk about dragons and early dragon stacking if it ends up being 2 to either side, but both teams kind of splitting the difference on that. So for all intents and purposes, across the entire map, we have very, very even nature of this game, and it's going to come down to those first big mid-game team fights.
Yeah, and well, Paz, I'm going to look at items a little bit. Paz has that early hull breaker, which is kind of what we were expecting, right? He wants to spend the whole time shoving the lane in, and Ebby, he wants to do something, but the problem is I just don't see him winning that, even if it's a level advantage that he had. I use the word had.
Not against an isolated Graves, because the big thing about the hull breaker is that gives you that damage reduction when you are the only allied champion on your screen. It means that your cannon minions are harder to kill as well. You can see Ebby looking for these hard trades, but he just doesn't do anything. Like, I mean, Paz has the fleet footwork too. Oh, that's a kick!
Well, that's a nice attempt on that one. One says he gets knocked back by the Herald! Oh, once! Might be able to get it alive to have a secret. Make sure that he sleeps 6 feet under, but Shelly is the reason DFM get first blood!
We can talk about new supports, we can talk about new mid laners. Have you heard about the new member of the roster, DFM? Herald comes down to the first objective play of it, and once tries to go... That is pixels off. That is pixels off a perfect kick from once onto Yaharong. And it's great to see this player not being dissuaded from the last season of poor results, but, I mean, Herald puts him back in his place and slaps him into DFM's team.
Oh, and it throws him into the gravity well. So once can't do anything. The second he gets knocked back, that is so unfortunate for him.
That is so demoralizing, actually. So demoralizing.
I feel for him, man. That is just that is all like the cards.
Okay, so we have place being taken across multiple places. So it was going to be that Herald, of course, in that mid lane after everything all said and done.
Yeah. So items is never a big thing. So
yeah, it is. I mean, that's about the worst roll possible you can have on like the Herald dice. You think, wow, Herald's got to get value.
Yeah, no, it could have been better. I want to quickly look at Unipom for a second here. Because he's decided, okay, I'll grab the tier nice and early, and then he's actually rushed a Ghost Blade in here for this
all right. So with lethality items, you do often see, we used to see the Serpent's Fang, very, very valuable. Ghost Blade kind of filled in the gap of just, this is very cost-efficient lethality. Now, is it going to be the best... is it going to give you the same value in terms of the defensive nature of something like an Eclipse? Not necessarily, but having that extra move speed against lower range targets when you can pop that ult and just kind of walk away a little further, that's actually quite important. I like this adaptation. It's not something I've seen from the Varus before, but I don't mind it. I like this.
Yeah, especially because you talk about, you need that extra bit of mobility from low range. Pads, relatively low range. Rise, relatively low. Most of Sengoku doesn't have the greatest amount of range. So yeah, give you a little bit of extra safety. As we're seeing, Steel is still up top side. Paz is like, all right, cool, thanks, see you later.
Okay, if there's one thing you can say about Paz is that he knows all of your tricks. He's seen them a dozen times before. Ebby's one of the oldest players in the longest standing players in the LJL. Paz is one of those other ones. Sniffs that out a mile away. It's Steel and Ebby. They've made miracles work before. Not gonna have any inspiration there though onto Paz.
Yeah, I like the attempt, because Steel's been doing this all game. Steel has been poking at lanes, and I'm like, can I? Maybe? Nah, try again later. So, I like that, because this is the one time Paz gets a little bit threatened, but Steel's objective isn't topside. Steel, I think, is just going to keep focusing mid and bot side, where he's been doing the whole rest of the game, especially now, because he can run at you at Mark 3, courtesy of the Turbo Chem tank.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, you are the sole tank on your team. You can also do that with the help of the Karma Shield, so you can be even faster in that regard. So now we are looking towards second Herald spawn. We talked about how important this is in terms of taking down mid lane outer turrets. It would be a very big pickup for either team. Look at those mid lane HP pools in terms of the towers. They would fall. But actually, DFM, they call their bluff to say, you can go towards the Herald. How about we just take the turret that we'd take the Herald to take anyway? Skip a couple of steps. Skip the middleman.
Yeah, you're both trying to outplay each other, and then simply DFM's like, wait, we can literally just press the button, problem solved. Secure that one, and one's like, well, I'll get revenge. At least try to get a little bit of revenge for the retro that bullied him into first blood, so... And
this time it's personal.
Yeah, this time he's not messing around, but this should get into the Rift Herald, and then honestly, Sengoku can be like, okay, cool, you take an our turret, we can take yours, and just a little bit of trading coming in from both of these teams, and the game continues to be, I'm gonna say, nice and passive. Honestly, neither of these teams look really like they need a, they're pressing the oh crap, let's end things now button.
For sure. I don't think either of these teams wants to overforce on plays, particularly when you've got 4 teleports on the map. We're not as used to seeing that nowadays. We will often see some ghosts hanging around, an ignite or 2, something like that. But both these teams willing to play reactively, play towards that late game, scale up on their solo lanes and see if they can, again, play that tug of war across the map. And currently, looks like DFM are losing that horribly in that mid lane. Going to lose 2 towers, one in the top lane, one in this mid lane. And Sengoku find themselves actually at a pretty good map state now. You've got a lot of vision on top side. You have the towers down to sustain that vision too. You can see Yoharong doesn't even feel safe right now to walk up to the tower. Does actually end up doing so after this point. But you can see the respect which he has to give this tower.
And I like that. That's showing, yes, does backing away doesn't quote unquote help him, but it's the correct decision because he's like, okay, there's a chance you'll dive me. I'm not even gonna take the risk that you're there. And rightly so, once was, backs away, doesn't even go down for it, and it's like, all right, sweet, got my needles with a large rod, let's get back into things. As Ebby has backup, but I feel so bad for him. Like, you know, he's this guy in the side lanes, like, I'm trying to help out the team the best I can, but realistically, Ebby, your job is to find honey and press your R key. That is
At
your
some
entire
point...
job in this game.
Oh man, the great Ebby reduced to this. And speaking of Honey, we found him. He's in the mid lane. Good job. We've done it, chat. And Honey has built up the Triforce. Just a reminder. I mean, if you didn't watch the LEC run, I did a Telestrator breakdown of this champion. Managed to stack that Triforce so quickly. Paz looking to make sure that Ebby's held accountable. Looks like this 1v1's ending there. But yeah, this one item spike, really important for the Zeri. So just keep your eyes on that champion because they utilize the Triforce and stuff like the Black Cleaver very effectively with their multi-hit Q.
Yeah. I was really hoping, honestly, that Ebby would get a solo kill. I don't know why my gut told me that, but my gut's like, come on, Ebby, you can do this, buddy. I believe in you.
I mean, it's Tabby Hullbreaker. That is the ultimate like solo kill blocking potential. It's just like, sweet, you hit me. I've got I'm gonna hit your turret now. Thanks. Cool. Walk away with that well-earned prize. So Sengoku now they have 3 towers down across the map. That's all 3 outer turrets down. You get to push in further. Get to take some of those that vision. Ebby going up to try and use his passive. Once looking for the play.
They're really hungry this from Sengoku here. Committing 3 members. They should be able to get a turret. Ebby needs to be a little careful. The TP, they actually want to commit to this one. Once is locked in, but a counter TP coming in for the side of Sengoku. DFM have to be a little careful, but some nice damage from Yoharong will force Sengoku to fully retreat despite having the man advantage.
Okay, so what we saw there was a use of those defensive teleports. This is kind of why this game slowed down. We were kind of more used to this in previous seasons where you're kind of so risk averse because you know that so many people can arrive to the play. Now, I know that some pros have definitely said, oh, you know, there are less variant plays because you can't do these multi-man TPs bot as well. But this is the other side of the coin where actually those same TPs can be used defensively. It happens a little later into the game, close towards the 20-minute mark. And DFM do save that in a turret. I think it is really dangerous now that DFM have given up so many structures. A lot of open ground exists on Summoner's Rift now. Most of the outer towers are down. There's literally only one left in the bot lane outer turret for Sengoku, which means that the vision is going to become more intricate. It can be more wide-ranging. These wards are going to be harder to clear out. Watch for those lapses of vision. That's where the game is going to be played around, particularly with a lot of these picked champions, with realm warps, with hook shots on the other side. That's what I see the game evolving towards.
And if with that sort of game style, I actually really like the Sengoku for just because oftentimes when you send your jungler to go get vision, you need to send backup. Well, backup is quite literally sitting on him in this form of Enti. So if once does get caught out, yeah, you've got in case something goes wrong, cat. That is the solution to all problems that you may face on Summoner's Rift. In trouble, cat. Want to get some backup, cat.
Cat. Well, glad we're all on the same page here. This is what this champion does. I mean, of course, Yubi can struggle to back up the vision game herself. You're not something like a Leona or a Braum, far from it. You don't really get to walk up and put down your own wards. Jet gets to walk up and take down his own tower, however.
Yeah, should be able to. Eddie can't hold this. Turret will fall, and Sengoku get another global structure. Now doubling the turrets, and DFM clearly aren't too happy about that.
That's
As
the
a huge
ults.
charge forward, Jet gets put into the ultimatum here. The rest of DFM will eventually arrive. Eddie shouldn't go down just yet. Paz, though, diving into the backline. They're not able to get the collateral damage output. And now DFM backing away a little bit. Sengoku like, oh, do we want to take this? Honey, just jump over the wall, buddy. You're basically Talon at this point, so you should be able to get it there, no issues. And only one member falls.
Yeah, but it is once again the Lee Sin really struggling to play into the Poppy. I mean, I think it was Sam that was mentioning it on one of the previous post games. It's really hard to play junglers into a lot of counter picks. Looking for a pick in itself that still goes in.
Yeah, Jet getting nuked down. One more hit will take him, but Honey now acting as the front lane, saying, all right, buddies, let's do this. Taking down to half health thanks to one Q from Yahorong. Has got to be careful. DFM has damage output if they can land it on the slipperiest champion.
Oh, Ebby's back.
Ebby is... The boss is arriving, but unfortunately the boss is already in its third form because there is no ultimate, no ignite, nothing really that Ebby can use to lock down someone beyond just the hook shot.
Okay, so DFM, extended phase of play, pick off the jungler, chase back the enemy into their own side of the jungle. Again, very dangerous this map, need we remind you, because it is so open, a lot of these structures went down. This is how it ends up starting off. I mean, this is kind of Camille straight to the letter, puts the ult onto a target, pins them in place long enough for the team to follow up. I actually really like what Once did in terms of trying to kick back the Camille into their team. Sadly, though, gets tagged by that Varus ultimate, which you were saying, we were looking at YouTube and saying, there's a lot of targets that are hard to hit with that ultimate. That one lands true, though, very important, locks them down for the kill.
Yeah, and nice that the DFM grab the second kill in 23 minutes. So a really slow game here as Honey... it'll be fine. Harp doesn't actually do that much damage. You rush the Purifier, which, kudos, that is...
Putrefy. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of purifying. It makes it really, really gungy and everything. It's nasty stuff.
I suppose that's why it does apply healing cut. It's like an infection
there you go.
At that point.
Maybe it's trying to purify Summoner's Rift of Yuumi. Maybe that's what it's trying to do. Either way, when you drop the Alt E, when you drop the big the Defiance, the big E, everyone is going to get huge healing cut. Might be relevant here as Once is just shut down.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Steel even denying the attempted run away with the ward jump from Once, because obviously no running away from Poppy.
I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool once 3 times, shame on Sengoku, I suppose. He has 100% death participation, the only person to have fallen in this game, but that's the nature of Lee Sin into Poppy. Sengoku now trying to scan out this Baron, threaten the ult lands.
Yeah, Jet is likely going to go down here, but actually, no, he's fine. Actually holding off DFM, says, all right, I'm tanky enough, thanks to my Fimbulwinter. And now DFM forced to back away. They may have the numbers advantage, but they can't get on them. Finally looking out, but they're just going for Jet again. Honey and Paz are free, hitting in the backline, finally being dived on here, but Sengoku are losing members finally. Honey and Enti running for the hills here, but yeah, DFM got to back up. You can't chase them down. They're too mobile.
I love what DFM are doing. They're engaging in multiple parts. They're understanding what cooldowns they need to blow, what they need to be aware of. Okay, Zerial's active. Let's back off. Let's that reset. Wait, they're coming back into us. Let's go again. They've played the back and forth so well. They net themselves a Baron. That is going to give them huge game-ending potential to take a huge gold lead and approach those fights even more difficult, strongly in the future.
You're wrong, so like, Honey, get out of here, buddy. Once is lurking nearby, but look at DFM's members. They're actually making sure there is no chance of a steal here. Brilliant coordination. Yahorong and Harp being like, all right, cool. We don't need to be there for Baron. We'll secure the objective, and now Sengoku are in a bit of a tight bind, let's say, because for all of their strengths, who's wave clearing the Baroned up minions?
You were just really hoping that Graves can out-push someone on a side lane, even with that. We're going to go see that. I mean, that's kind of what they're there for, right? But it's going to be really difficult because the FM are using the Fog of War very well now. They're securing areas of the map, which Sengoku then really struggled to walk into. You can see what happens here. I love how patiently they play out this fight. Very, very aware of what they need to be aware of. They time out the Zeri ultimate. They go back in. They use the Camille. Evie once again kind of being the tip of the spear for DFM. We've seen that so many seasons past, and see how important it is for DFM to be on the same page and have these go buttons willing, ready to go.
Yeah, and Eddie throwing himself forwards. They're basically being like, all right, cool. You're not going to be able to kill me, and then we're going to at least get one of you. And that seems to be working out great for DFM. Now using that Baron up to basically crush what's left of the other two turrets, right? Sengoku built up a nice turret lead, and now it's standing gold for DFM to collect.
It is. It's going to be a cascade of finances for the side of DFM. See, actually, that Camille's gone for the Hull Breaker too. We've been seeing so much of that today. It has been cropping up around the LCK. It's been cropping up a little bit around some other regions too. It's so valuable in being able to play the split map state. And as we said, it gives you that 1v1 defensive nature as well. So Ebby has the teleport, but for now, relegated to a side lane to use that item to its fullest.
Yeah, and he's got the teleport, so DFM, if they ever get engaged on, they have their Camille. He's like, alright, cool, I'm gonna be mid lane. And Sengoku, what do you do in this situation? Do you go for that kind of ballsy, we need to get something play, or do you just hope you don't bleed out too much? Miracle
I think it has to be the Miracle Royal Morp. I think you Miracle Royal Morp the Lee Sin behind a key carry and try and kick them back in. Problem is, they all have flash now. Very dangerous to pull off, potentially loses you the game, but that's the only opening you've got. You got to force something. Now with the Dragon spawning soon, remember that would be Soul for the side of DFM, and Ocean Soul, particularly with how long these fights have been going, would be difficult for Sengoku to fight against, and they're already finding it hard enough.
Yeah, and now Sengoku have to walk into DFM as well. They don't have vision, really. They're like, okay, we've got
Again, it's the same vision
Jet
trap.
has to tank on it. Yeah, Jet has to be on the front line. He's the tankiest member. Oh, what a beautiful hammer! Once isn't allowed to even contest the objective. And Sengoku, if they were in trouble before, they're now falling into quicksand.
Because they don't get anything for that contest. You can see the Sengoku like, well, we have to approach it somehow, but they don't find anything. They at least now objective bounties are across the map for them. I don't know if even gold is going to really solve their issues at this point. You look at the items which Yaharong has full magic pen between boots, between Shadow Flame and the Ludens, Cosmic Drive to make him that much harder to deal with. With the we already talked about Karma speeding up the likes of the Poppy with the Chemtech, speeding up the Victor who's already got the Cosmic Drive too. I mean, DFM have so many ways to keep that range advantage so much in their favor because these close range champions are just not going to be able to get on top of them.
Yeah, and again, I feel like Sengoku have to put like a Fnatic Death Brush at this point. Because
They need to find something. It's going to have to be Realm Warps, it's going to be Vision Traps, but look at the vision which DFM has. The whole top side of the map has secured Yaharong a safe push. They've got members waiting in the wings. You have to be so creative inside of Sengoku, and they've struggled to find that creativity the whole game so far.
Yeah, they're almost J-ramming it now because Ebby's in bot side, Yaharong's on top, they're being 1-3-1, so like, alright, screw it. We'll put everyone into one group and we'll just ram it down mid. And DFM, clearly we're not expecting just this Sengoku to be like, screw it, J-ram time, let's do this.
No, a bit slow on the recalls there, and of course you got, of course with the Triforce built up, you get to proc that so often on the Zeri. You get to alternate your right click and your Qs, which both target structures to get so much damage down. So that is something picked up from Sengoku. That's something that they desperately needed. Question is, again, does that change the way that they can play out the map? At least they've survived through the Baron buff. They don't have to deal with that siege being that much more difficult. I just don't see how this gets that much better for them.
Yeah, I mean, the saving grace, in a way, is that they're not... Jesus. That's just mean, Yaharong. But they're not that far behind in gold. Like, it's 3,000 to 4,000 gold. That's not, like, a massive disparity, all things considering. But it feels like every time DFM just walks somewhere, Sengoku are like, oh god, what do we do? What do we got? What's going on? And it just feels like almost a bit of panic coming through for the Sengoku side. And 3,000 gold with panic, that feels closer to a bit more 5 or 6.
I think this is going away from panic into just free falling in this game, right? Because the good thing is they've survived the last Baron, and it feels like DFM might need a Baron to close out this game. So they have a few minutes to try and play around. They need to not get picked off themselves. It's very difficult for them to play and even get jungle camps or the like while they've lost all of this vision. Sengoku have failed to get a single kill this game. It's 31 minutes in, unless we hark back to that other low kill game from last year, which Sengoku were involved in, the Battle of Sengoku Burning Core. The main casualties were Midnight and Nightmare that were casting that game. We're actually the ghosts of them now. But Sengoku, make no mistake, they do look better than they did last year. They did look up towards the end of last splits, but this is not a result that they're going to be particularly pleased with. It felt like they had the composition to play around. It felt like they had the creativity and the tools to make plays, but they're going to have to look for something more now, and they're failing to find it yet again.
Yeah, I mean, well, Once is definitely awesome, but the
Once.
issue is getting caught out, and over-aggression from Once. You talked about it before the game. He can be your best friend,
Oh, he
your
blocks
biggest demon, and
Yuri!
finally dives in from Eddie. He is not going to go down. There's a lovely hammer, kicks him into the backline there. DFM only got 1 kill, but it's the jungler who is funny. Honey onto the front line there, needs to be careful. Harper gets some nice damage down. Steel is running forwards on the little Yordle legs, but DFM cannot get onto Sengoku, and they're like, all right, screw it. Baron, we're out of here.
Okay, but they're playing the vision trap again. Sengoku looking to push up mid. They realize they can't walk into it. DFM, if they get this Baron, for me, that's the game pretty much done at that point. Anyway, we said it might have to last to another Baron. They're going to shred through this. There's no smite on the table. So Sengoku not able to take that one away. They're not going to get themselves objective bounty this time either. No inner turrets, rather, for them to crush through. They have to get towards the inhibitor turrets, and they would be a step too far. So DFM going to reset, going to buy up their last items and look for that death push.
Yeah, and DFM are in a pretty commanding position here, and part of the reason I want to say this is because Sengoku, with the likes of the Zeri, I feel like you have to be getting ahead as Zeri. Like, going even, not a disaster, right? But I feel like you have to go ahead, and unfortunately, Honey and NT are basically cosplaying Evelyn. Look at their scores. They haven't been in... like...
You're absolutely right. No, and Honey is a player who's so used to deciding the game one way or the other. On the Jinx, on the Aphelios, on the Varus, you give him anything and he blows up the game with it.
Yeah.
This feels like the kind of game where, I mean, the Zeri, it feels like Kassadin, right? Where it will eventually come online and be so dreadfully awful to try and play against. Maybe not in the same way in terms of the damage, in terms of like level 16 Kassadin is so hard to play against, but Zeri has to have a good composition to play into, same as the Kassadin, right? You pick for the enemy team, not necessarily for the lane. And it feels like Honey has just not been able to play into this team. Particularly the Victor has seemed to be more of an apt answer, where you just drop all of your damage onto them and they have to run out from that point. Sengoku calling DFM's bluff, trying to stick in this mid lane, but I feel like with the Hull Breaker buffing up that cannon's tankiness, DFM just win this race straight out.
They have Baron. Sengoku, you
They're
can't
Baron.
win this
They have a
race.
Hull Breaker.
He has Baron. What are you doing? You gotta get back home now. Because DFM are just gonna go to end. Like, they're not gonna wait him around. Why is no... Like, Honey, you have to start
They're trying to recall because
now.
the Elder's spawning. They're calling the bluff. The Elder was spawning. Sengoku fall for the bait, but they're gonna end the damn game.
DFM, they have been flanked though. This is a full pin, so they need to be careful. They go back out. No, I think you commit to the end here as DFM there. Once has to be careful. DFM filtering out, saying, what are we going for? You have caught out Ebby. Ebby's pretty damn tanky though. He's not the target. Finally committing to the fight. Their hammer comes through. They do get Ebby, however. DFM, they were not able to use that Baron to end Sengoku. They lost their inhibitor, sure, but with Elder available, both junglers up, but there is no Ebby. This Death Brush has to work. You have to get something now, DFM, because you are in a little bit of trouble otherwise. Honey is at half health.
Jets?
Taken down low. Jet's pretty damn tanky as he gets slammed to once. Say goodbye to half your health, buddy. As, DFM are still pushing, but Sengoku are not going to let this go. You cannot give up this dragon.
Okay, they have a realm warp. Maybe they can find a way back into it, but trying to engage into the gravity field, into the Varus, into the Karmakus, into everything, so difficult. Once again, lest we mention the range again, they're going for the fight.
Steel dives into the front line. He's tanky, but he's just getting torn apart bit by bit. DFM now have to run for the hills. Still 10 seconds before Ebby comes back up, and they're on the wrong side of Summoner's Rift. DFM, you are the red side.
I mean, we've just switched teams. We just switched geographical sides of the map. The Elder going to be started. Ebby no TP. Let's go for the fight again.
Yeah, but now Ebby's going to come in for the flank here. I think that's going to be really, really important. DFM, Unicorn has no idea Once is sneaking up behind them. This could be massive.
Oh, Once!
Check in the back line. Caught him out completely. Forcing you to stopwatch to stay alive. Ebby now dives into the back line. There we go. Goodbye, Honey is no longer in the fight. DFM, we're fighting now. No 80 carry for Sengoku. They are holding out for the life of them, but they will be forced to back away. Minions are crashing into the inhibitor, into the Nexus while this is happening. It's still low. Collateral damage not going to be enough. DFM, after all of the posturing, after everything, will be the team to walk away with the Elder Dragon.
They make it look a little difficult. We got to throw it at them there and say, look, this was... Both Nexus turrets are gone. When you have a super mini wave in a side lane, it does crush through those turrets. Once, for the first time this game, finds a way into the backline without the Poppy just blocking him off and finds the Varus. but they have the Ocean Soul. You realize the Ocean Soul ticks up during stasis as well, has both summoners. Yutapon comes out of that, none the worse for wear. Gets to reset the fight, turn things around, and as much as the Graves and the Zeri pick off one in return, DFM walk away with a bit of smoke and mirrors, a bit of magic, and it feels like they got away with that one.
Oh, what some craziness we had of that one, Nightmare. The bottom side, just shenanigans into the... We're literally on the wrong side of Summoner's Rift. This is what I'm...
Yep, the old switcheroo.
Great.
Okay, so we have bot lane push coming in from DFM. The grouping up here once more time. Heavy has the ult, looking to maybe join from the side. DFM need to be aware of that Realm Warp. Once again, Sengoku not really used that for the entirety of this game so far. They're trying to peel back rather than split things up, but DFM might just be able to rush the Nexus.
Well, once it's damn low, and with that Elder, it makes it really hard to fight. Yahoo is hitting onto the Nexus. Sengoku need to commit now if they want to hold on to this, but they don't have the health and the resources to commit to this one. One already goes down. Goodbye, Jet. As Yutapon is left untouched, one dives into the backline there, but against the Elder Dragon, it simply does not matter at this point of the game. Honey's trying his damnedest, but unfortunately, buddy, it is simply far too little, far too late, as DFM will get their second win of the 2022 season.
Takes them a little while, of course, but they hold Sengoku to just a handful of kills. I believe it was only 2 kills throughout the entire game. I have not seen a game where a 2-kill team has made it look as close as it has done for maybe ever. That was actually a very tense late game scenario. But of course, this is our last game of the day. Every team now having played 2 games. With that in mind, we'd love to invite J-Real back to the set, see if you'd like to talk through the rest of the games today. Because this one, it did go into a late game affair. So J-Real, take us through it.
Yeah, well, obviously we can kick it off from the top. DFM looking very strong, and you kind of said it before the game as well. You weren't really sure how they would come out this season, but they are really looking pretty good, you know, and they are on cue so far to be taking top spot.
So I think, well, taking top spot, I mean, of course, they are 2-0. Would I say that they're out and out top at the table, though? They've made it look difficult in both of their games. I will say that. It's not been easy. I think that we're seeing that their team fighting is still very much on point. Maybe that Elder fight could have been a bit more clean, but you can still see that they're kind of hand checking the other team, checking that they've got all their fingers in the right place and see if they're ready to click them. And they've gotten away with it for now. We kind of expect that from new teams getting together because they're in this kind of race for coherency, right? For cohesion amongst their team members, trying to fit everyone into this machine which they've had running for so long. I'm waiting to see the next evolution of this and how long it will take DFM to kind of clean up the rest of their play, though.
Yeah, and also I guess the next one is in the wise words of Marswan, pick Camille into Zeri. They found the way to beat it. Midnight, do you feel like there just wasn't really any angles for Zeri to even get into this game? It felt like they were kind of kept on the side for most of the whole game.
Yeah, well, like, the Zeri at 31 minutes had no kill participation in any capacity. Now, you could say, why do you have to watch one get bullied like that? Like, you could say in a way...
Thank you, mainstream.
Just cut it there. But, like, a lot of it for Sengoku, yes, they didn't get a whole lot. But look at Ebi here. Very rarely did I think he actually used his ultimate on Honey. Often Jet was the recipient to that. But Honey, for all his skirmishing, he couldn't get through Steel. He couldn't get through Ebi. And suddenly you're like, well, what do I do?
So for me, I think the really intelligent way about the FM played out's fights was they realized they could front to back. The Victor was doing more than the Rise at that point, and then they could reset the fight. Because actually, I look at Zeri and I feel like she's very ult-reliant in a lot of these fights. You need her having that extra move speed to start really kiting you down. We know that the Victor can already threaten that champion, but once you take out the first target, peel back, wait for the stacks to fall off, I think that it's a much more manageable champion to deal with. And DFM, they didn't close out the game particularly quickly, but when they actually got into those fights, they looked fairly confident.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess we talk about team fights. We've seen a lot of split pushing today, but not so much in this game. But we still see the return of Hullbreaker. So both top laners still building this item. Do you feel like it's really worth it, or do you feel like everyone's kind of getting caught up in Hullbreaker fever?
No, I like it. I like the item. I think the item is very valuable. I think what we've seen is that it helps open up the map. And if you're a team which does have a Rise or split push like a Tryndamere, because it helps you take the first turrets, it kind of helps you snowball that even further onwards, right? Even on the defensive side of it, we saw it briefly from Ebby, right, in the mid lane. He stands there and he buffs up his cannon minion. And the cannon, it's like almost like a mini banner of command, if you remember that item. That was a horrid thing to put into the meta, but because we can see that with the Baron, with the Banner of Command, with the Hullbreaker, it's fine. You can find it really hard to push into the Hullbreaker as well. It gives you, it's almost like it papers over the cracks of poor macro wave management, because you turn up to wave like, wait, they shouldn't have really left this wave in this position. Well, now they kind of can, because they've got the Hullbreaker buffing up the cannon.
Yeah, and kind of talking about pushing into fights and stuff like that. One question I guess I have about Sengoku was it did kind of feel like they weren't really setting up as well as maybe we would have liked. There was a lot of Dragon times where they just were late. They weren't able to get there on the right times. And obviously we saw the whole fiasco of them going to Elder Drake and then having to go back to their base. Do you feel like maybe some of their macro kind of needs a bit more touching up before they really become that top contender?
That's got to be. I feel like that's the early week fever we're looking at here. It's
Yes.
the result of, oh God, you're still trying to coordinate with your teammates. You're still trying to make sense of what is a very stressful situation. Like, how often in practices and scrims can you look at that game state and get to that game state and not have a panic? Because all it is one mistake, one misplay, one bad call. You've lost the game on the back of your decision, and the stress that's causing to the shot caller. They have my sympathies, because that is an awful position to be in, because you're trying to coordinate 5 guys in a stressful situation where one mistake and it's good night buttercup.
And speaking of coordinating 5 guys, there was a lot of burger flipping around objectives too.
God
damn it. Obviously that last Elder fight, it looked really good for Sengoku. They almost made it happen, but it just was not to be. And it will be DFM picking up another win and taking the top of the table, I believe, next to Axis, who is the next team that I want to talk about. We could do them in order, but Axis are clapping teams like thunder. They are making their moves occur, and today they were ripping up the Rift.
They were, and I did power rank them last. I am starting to regret those words, because what we saw from Axis like last year in summer, right? They did have star power, but what really impressed me was how, again, like they were all on the same page. And it's kind of a running theme for a lot of different regions, where it seems like maybe the LJL's a little bit off this because star power means so much in this region, but on the whole, cohesion beats individual parts. And Axis have come in with a level of team play, which I didn't quite expect to see from them. Now, they were against V3 today, and they are a team which we haven't expected much from themselves, and there still was some question in there. There were some fights which were going back and forth. They also had Zeri into probably the perfect team for Zeri to fight into. This felt like a bit of a draft diff today. Felt like Sangchu as well had a very, very good performance, and that was kind of the story of the game. Still, great early start from Axis. This is not a team and an org which historically has started well in splits. They were actually very famous for going 0-6 and 0-8 in 2020, actually, in those splits respectively. This is, again, a bright moment for them.
Yeah, and I guess the other game that we should talk about as well, obviously just before this one, Burning Core looking pretty composed. Midnight, you feeling confident about their trials and tribulations this season? Do you feel like they're going to actually make it a real season for themselves?
Honestly, yes. I compare this Burning Core to the Burning Core of, don't give me that look, mate. Like, I compare this Burning Core to the Burning Core that I've seen suffer for a split, and this Burning Core is steps up above what was their previous form of iteration. And maybe I'm too hopeful. Maybe I'm ignorant and naive in thinking that they've got a lot of solutions to what were the problems of last season. Their bot lane, with the side of their support now, is actually really strong. I really like their bot lane. Their top half of the map is as dominant as it's always been. So I'm really excited. Will they be able to, are they going to be top 4 this season? Probably not. No. But are they going to do a lot better than their last split? I think absolutely. I'm thinking like top 6 for this team here, honestly. I think I'm really happy with how they've shown. Give me the playoffs.
All right, and with the last game that we had of the day, it's actually going to be the first one that we had of the day, the last one we talk about, though. And before we talk about this, I want to play a little game. I want to play Mess or Impress. it was a pretty close match. Both look good, but do you feel like both teams impress, or were one of them a mess?
I'm gonna actually have to remember back to what the first game of the day was because I was prepping for these games while it was happening. So I believe there was there a Rascal Jester and a Hawk in there somewhere? I believe
Yeah, it was
those two.
SHG versus Rascal Jesters.
Okay, so Rascal Jester, I actually penned them in as my pre-split favorites for this split. At least coming into like maybe around mid-split where things start to change and we start getting meta changes, really flipping things about. Rascal Jesters are not at the power level which I'd expect them to be. I think that Sol, his positioning in team fights, I was a little worried about. Caught out by a few too many shockwaves, had a couple of blunders in team fights, which I'm not were uncharacteristic, right? However, Rascal Jester look like they are probably the most coordinated team in terms of where they want to be taking their fights, outside of maybe DFM. And like I said, I've got a couple of questions for them too. So I think Rascal Jesters are a healthy mix of both mess and impress. I think that on an individual level, some things need to be tightened up. I think Ino on an individual level, really good. Really loved his Tryndamere today, and he kind of beat down Kanatsu, and that's a good moral victory for him. But as a team on the whole, they've impressed me. I don't know if you got any thoughts about Hawks Midnight. I know I kind of snagged away the easy one, but we can chat about Hawks a bit if you'd like.
I mean, I still think I don't want to pick either side of mess or impress because they were in the middle for me. Like, there were signs of brilliance. There were signs of what the hell is going on. And I really hope this is simply a symptom of a lot of a new, because their roster's changed quite a bit. Of course, remember they lost Corporal, who I'm pretty sure was a pretty big voice in the team last split, and so suddenly like, okay, we've got to get in a new support. And it's just like you need a couple weeks to get things sorted, and once that's sorted, I think they'll be great. But right now they're in the middle ground of like they're flipping a coin basically, and obviously that's a little less than ideal when you're trying to gun for first place. Flipping a coin is well, it has its ups and its downs.
For me, actually, the Hawks are actually a bit more of a mess. I'm actually going to be a lot more harsh on them. They are meant to be a super team. They are some of the best individual players that we have in the region right now, outside of, the likes of your DFM and some of the Rascal Jester lineup too. And I know that the last time Blank came into the region, or at least in terms of into a new team, I'm thinking about, because he was the last surviving member of 2019 Sengoku, and then they came into 2020 and they tried to build a true super team. And it went like 0-2, 0-3 for the first couple of games, and it took until week 4. Like, we were hearing actually back then, bit of story time. I was talking to some people at Casty, the PCS back then. We were hearing that Sengoku were losing scrims to the very last place team in the PCS, who were an absolute joke at that point. And it took until about week 4 until they turned it on. Now, this could be a similar state with the Hawks, but I don't want to have to go through that again. This is meant to be a good team. You're meant to be able to on paper. Get it together, Hawks.
All right, and with that, Hullbreaker has been the word of the day. And to quote a really famous Brit, going back to Shakespeare, about this item, to build or not to build, that was the question. LJL today have answered, it is to build, always to build, and don't forget it. And the last question that I have for you guys is a very heated topic came up earlier on this day as to exactly which Urgot skin is your favorite, and I want to get that as your final message.
Giant enemy crab god. It is not even a contest. Give me the giant crab. The crustacean reigns supreme.
Yeah, you're not gonna get any objection from me on that one, then, Mary. You're absolutely right. How can you go wrong with a giant crab? Like, crabs are the best animal in the animal kingdom by far. Like, how can you ever contest that? Snip, snip.
Don't know about we are going to be leaving you. That has been the LJL Day 2 for Week 1. And obviously, we will be back on Wednesday as well. I believe it'll be same start time, 9 a.m. GMT. And if you're missing a lot of LJL and you want a little bit more, there is a podcast on Tuesday as well. So you won't have to wait all the way till Wednesday. But with that, that is going to be all from us. See you later.